All right, we are live. Welcome to this auspicious evening. We have a long requested guest, someone I've wanted to bring apart for a while, Kyle, who is going to go over UI and interface design, incredibly important aspect of game design that is often overlooked because uh, you want to shoot things, but UI is the flavor that gives games their distinctive, unique identities. And we also have a few special things that Kyle's been working on. He's talked with Trey. He'll be able to reveal a few things, not everything. But here we are. This is the road to update 0.15. When is it coming? Sooner than you think, but I am sworn to secrecy. I cannot give that date, just to tell you that it is coming soon. And we have many exciting events coming up to let you know about some of the cool stuff, to tease you, to get you excited, but not quite give everything away.
Indeedy.
So, what are we looking at here, Kyle?
Do you want me to introduce myself first?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Alrighty. My name's Kyle. I am the lead UI UX dude. That's an official title. I have been working on the project. I say project. I've been working a part of the team since March 2018. You're probably like, what? 2018? The company hasn't been around since then. So I think it was during the first Kickstarter, SCP Ascension. I was sort of browsing through that and I came across the project, and I was like, "Oh man, this is cool." I thought, "Yeah, I'll back it." So I backed the project, and I saw at the bottom they were looking for developers, and I was like, "Hey, I work in Unreal. I enjoy game development. Why not just go ahead?" So I got in contact with Suji, and yeah, just joined the team. So yeah, I've been pretty much developing on and off since then, because at the start we sort of did it in our spare time. Uh, yeah, originally I was brought on as an AI programmer. Quickly found out I wasn't a fan of AI programming, so I was like, nope, I will do other programming. And yeah, I just sort of went into gameplay programming, and with the need for UI, I moved on to that.
Amazing.
So
So,
yeah,
so you have like one of the oldest track records at a fray that anyone could ask for. You were an OG there from the start.
yeah. I think when I joined, there was 3 other people who were there, or maybe 4. It's kind of difficult because I think there was a couple of mods there also at the time, but we didn't necessarily have any sort of community, if that makes sense. So, so yeah, there was quite a few of us. I think it was Suji, myself. Oh, why did I start listing? Pi for some of these others. Albani, uh, yeah, but some of the originals, which was it was good. It's been an interesting time
Well,
since then.
it must have been an incredible journey. So, just out of curiosity, were you ever working in the game design or programming before you joined the fray? What cool stories do you might pray
Ah,
share with us?
right. So I did well during when I first started. I was midway through uni, so it was sort of like a good side project to sort of say, "Hey, I'm developing a game on the side." You know, it's good. So I don't have many experience in developing other games, but just before I got brought on as full time development for this project, I I worked for another studio, unfortunately, the work is NDA.
Aw.
Yeah, so I can't discuss it, but I worked on originally when I first started. I worked on a project. It was a it was a 3D. It was kind of weird. Like you were a car. You played as a car and you had to drive around. It was very like a crap. I can't think of the name.
Was it
A
like the Cars? You know, the movie Cars from
Crazy
Pixar.
Taxi.
Oh, Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, yeah. It's very much like that, where you had an objective and you had a time limit, and you had to drive around the streets, and dodge other cars, and it was cool. Uh, it was really good stuff.
Ah, I wish I could see it. I was a big Crazy
Yeah,
Taxi fan. It was one of my favorite games back in the Dreamcast era.
yeah. It was good.
But
I enjoyed it.
that's incredible, though. Going from university to working at a Fray, the wonderful indie space, it is always great to build projects. I'm sure everyone in the gaming world seems to be talking about the Fallout London mod. And that just goes to show you the true spirit of gaming and innovation are those who are willing to build things on their own and showcase them to the world, which is so glad to see that you've been able to spread your wings and build your talents here at Affray. So, for dumb people like me, what are we looking at here? Is this how do you build
Uh,
interface? How do you build UI?
Alrighty, yes. So this is the Unreal Engine, which I'm sure a lot of people have played about with, just because it's so accessible now. Like ever since it was free, it became free, and whenever ago, a couple of years ago, everyone's played about with it, whether it's through UE4, UE5, Unreal Engine, Fortnite editor. Someone's played about with it, or someone you know. I can guarantee. A So yeah, so the interface is pretty recognizable. But yeah, this is pretty much what we do for game development. This is the main interface. Uh, so yeah, if we want to look at specifically what I usually work on, it's stuff like this. So this is the widget editor. So this is where you modify the UI for the game. Uh, so it's very much like a photo editing software.
Uh,
Like Photoshop, you've got this sort of outliner on the left, and you basically drag and drop elements to create your UI. This example I've got here is the SCP file document, eh, which is it doesn't look that good at the moment, but when it gets populated, it looks a lot better. It does.
so this is an interesting thing to see. Um, what how come you build it here versus like doing it in Photoshop and importing it?
Right. Yeah, originally when for documents specifically, when we were originally thinking about how we should create documents, we were like, we could create the documents in Photoshop, in photo editing software, and have those in game. But the one issue with having files, images in game, is they take up a lot of space, a lot of storage space. Uh, and we we really wanted the game to be accessible, which is one of our I say main focuses. It's one of my main focuses, which I've just sort of brought along, and I've been like, yes, we need it. It needs to. We need that stuff. Uh, so what we would do is for different languages, we would need to duplicate the documents for every language we would support. So that would be French, German, Japanese, Chinese, all the languages. Uh, so that would become way out of hand because we'd have the in the images themselves. they'd have to be its decent resolution so that we could actually see the text. And obviously, that doesn't look that good. But you can see stuff, and it's a for example, if I show you here, here's what the document looks like on the images, on the concepts and stuff, and even some parts of the game. I think we have this, but what we would do is we'd have to put this in game at a reasonable resolution. We're probably talking like at least 1/4 of a standard user's resolution. A so so imagine that times the amount of languages we will eventually support, 32, and that's for one document. So that's one document times 32. And then imagine if the document itself went onto multiple pages. Now that's two times the documents times 32. You can see where it's gonna get out of hand. So
That's
so
interesting.
what we do, yeah. So what we do is we actually just translate the text, which is a lot easier. Eh, I don't think I've got any secret stuff in the documents. No. But yeah, so in here we've got the string table, and what we do is we basically just we get the strings from the writing team, so the text, and then we input it into these string tables. And pardon me, what we do is we take the text here, put it in, and when we export, yeah, I'll show you the translation editor. So if we go to Window, Localization Dashboard, so here's all the nice uh, languages we currently support.
Ooh, so many.
A Yeah, yeah. Right now we have a team of community translators. So some languages are more filled out than others, and because we're constantly updating, you know, like French used to be at 100%, but since we've had periodical updates, it's gone back down to 15% now. So we've probably got 15% of the original text. I think that was about 2 years ago, something like that.
So,
Uh, so we've had quite a big, increase in text.
so quick question. I see that the word count is 1,200 in total for
Yes,
English. Is that for like all the documents in the game that are in the great game right now?
that is for all text in the game, all localizable text. So right here we've got the documents. So this contains all the documents in the game in this table, and then we've got a bunch of other string tables. If I just type st, so all these cream colored ones are different string tables for different stuff. So here we've got accessibility settings, stuff like that. Whatever needs translating in the game has a reference here, and it makes up that 12,000 words, 12,900. So yeah,
Ah, so
it's a large number. It is.
is that an increase from the update point 14? Because correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I know, there were no like pickupable documents in the game yet, or am I mistaken on that?
There are currently, yeah. There's been documents in the game for the last. I actually don't know when they were added, but a long time ago. They've been there a while.
Okay.
They just haven't been developed on, which is something I've done for this update.
Yes, that's the excite. Well, I think you went over
Yeah,
with Trey of like how much you can talk about, how much you can't. I'm
yeah,
gonna be a little because I don't want to ruin anything, but what can you tell us about? Because the thing that I'm excited about is that this update will let you interact with the lore a little bit more directly than you had previously. So what can you tell us?
yeah. So we were planning to do a journal UI overhaul, which is just like a redesign of what the journal looks like. But a after discussions we had pre-updates, I think it was before the last a minor update we had. We were discussing the back end system, and it was originally designed to be for documents only. But after we added the documents, then we needed a way to store codes. So we added codes to the interface, and we managed to just sort of hack it together, which is not a good way to do it, but we did it. Uh, so yeah, so part of this update was basically taking the the functionality of what we had before and making it work as intended, and something you can build on. A So I'm going to show off one of the data assets for iWig, for example.
Ooh,
iWig. I never actually asked for how I pronounce it, but this stuff. A So this is. I'm sure this isn't secret. Hopefully. So this is how a designer or whoever inputs the data into the engine would interface it. iWig. Yes. Uh, so yeah, so you'd specify. So this is specifically for terminus procedures. If you look here, it has a C++ class which inherits from standard documents, and here what we do is we specify a clearance level and disruption class, and these are basically standard SCP terminology, which is all packed nicely in this data table we got set up. So yeah, I just run through some of these. So here we've got all the containment levels, a disruption class, risk class, clearance levels, and secondary classes. These are basically descriptions for the SCPs, or categories for them, which I'm sure everybody knows because, yeah, pretty much everybody who plays the game knows something about SCP for the most part. Where
ooh.
were we? Yes.
So they'll have a tool that they can sort through these description levels, and a new interface that you've been working on to look through this.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the way for the designer to easily create new documents. So they pass in the selection, and select what they want, which is it's pretty cool and easy to do, uh, and it's very easy to set up. And then here we've got a base template and an interactive template. I'll show you what those do in a second, when I show the documents. But here we've got text data. So one of the reasons why we had to sort of change how the journal works and how documents work is because a lot of documents have different requirements. So most documents just have a main piece of text. Some may want text and images, and that can be a bit iffy. So I've set up functionality in the future to hopefully import images with text, if that makes sense.
Ooh.
So we can get this cool stuff like this. It's not here yet, but it's something we want to get done. So yeah, that functionality is partially set up. uh,
That's exciting for the future.
for the future, yes. It is indeed. It is for sure.
uh,
And yeah,
we do have a very excited. We're gonna let Kyle showcase a little bit more before we go into full Q&A mode. But DCR asks, could you add a banana to the UI just for SCP-2761? If you wanted to bananify the UI, how difficult would that be?
how did yeah? I get it. Depends what you mean. Like, if we wanted to modify the in-game UI and just add a banana, I guess we open a what should I open? We can open the hood. That's not the hood. So yeah, we can open the hood widgets. I think I've got no secrets here.
Ooh.
And what we do is we just place an image. Yeah, we'll drag it there, and we just add a banana, and that's it. That's it. Perfect. That'll that'll be.
So
Fingers crossed that doesn't break anything.
So hypothetically, all right. So let's say you add in a banana, and let's say you wanted to go rogue. You wanted to bring justice to SCP 2761. Bowman Trey Albarni be damned. You are possessed by the community to do this. How difficult would it be to like get it running live on the game servers, like to get the banana so people could actually see it hypothetically?
Right, because obviously the UI it's built into the game. So in order for the UI to go live, essentially, it would have to come out in an update. There's no there is middleware you can get where you can create the UI independently of the engine, and what you'll do is you'll basically update the server, and it will update real time for clients. But obviously, we don't do that because number one, it'll be a pain to set up, and it's just not needed. We're
Well,
not a
live
we're not
service
a live
game.
service game. Yeah, exactly. We don't need that. But yeah, this is what you would do. You just add it to the UI, and magically it'd work. I definitely didn't show that off. What? No, I'm joking. That's the journal. But yeah, so modifying the UI is pretty easy.
Well, that is very cool. X Streeper was also asking, will I? This is road to 0.15. Will I reveal the release date? Potentially. I would love to, but I think that they don't want to give the update release until it's 100% locked in. They don't want to disappoint you people, promise a date, and then have to backtrack on it. But if I get the okay, oh boy, will I. But yeah, we've got several of these planned up. One that I'm really looking forward to, and that will be a really exciting one. And when I announce that, it'll be pretty close to when it's coming out. But like I said, we'll just stay tuned for look into that. So I guess what would you say are your artistic inspirations for the UI of SCP-5K? Are you kind of like looking at like Men in Black? Or you what stuff have you been drawing from?
Right. It's not a surprise that the UI for the game is pretty basic. It's pretty functional in terms of design, and that's just because that's what it has to be. Like when we create the UI, we're thinking, right, how long will it take for us to get the functionality in, and then we focus on that, and it's then a matter of making it look pretty after the fact, if you know what I mean. Like we do animation, we do design, and a lot of the inspiration comes from a mix of places. So we've got other games which are similar to ours. I say similar, but they're more like inspirational of when we like from the origin point of this game up until now. It's been a like, oh yeah, that game does this well. It works so well, and how could we how could we make how could we shape this game to work like that, to have that fun factor? Eh, and we kind of do that with the UI. We're like, oh, that's a cool way they've done that. That's very interesting. I like the animation. I like the color, for example. Eh, with tactical games, because obviously 5K is a part of that. It's tactical games are very black. Like if you look at a tactical game, they're very monotone. a just like Tarkov. It's very grayscale. A other games. But if you look at, I think Insurgency Sandstorm, they've got a bit of color in there, but a lot of the interfaces are very monotone, and that's good because it allows the interface to be accessible for everybody. Uh, like colorblind people with color blindness, they don't get any because it's monochrome. They don't get any issue with that, or the least amount of issue they could get with it. Which has sort of been like the focus of the UI design up until this point. Uh, so yeah, so it's built to be functional and to be very similar to other games in the field. So other tactical games, other horror games, stuff like that.
And
Uh,
that was kind of
yeah,
the sort of simple. I don't know if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan. Simple and clean. That's how you make me feel tonight. That little fun song.
exactly. Yeah, from early on, a minimalism was being it was sort of wanted. Like early on, yeah, everybody wanted minimalism. They're like, first time we booted up the game and we got people in to play it. One of the things they said is, "How do I hide the UI?" I slammed my hand on my desk. I was like, "What is wrong with my crappy UI?" Uh, no, it's good. It's good to see people who they want the they want the game to be immersive, and I do enjoy that. But also, we have a huge target audience for 5K. It's crazy. We've got people who are hardcore tactical. They want no UI, no help. They will do things on their own. But then we've got people who are the opposites, who they want the assistance, they want UI elements, they want feedback, which isn't being given by just gameplay. And that is one of the things we sort of had to wrestle with. How do we make both happy? And one of the latest features, which came out last update before this, is the UI. So we've got a HUD section here where you can specify if you want things visible, not visible, only visible when needed, which is the default for item mode and hotbar. Which is good because it allows people to change the things they want. So right now, when you change weapon, your hotbar shows up. When you hold down R, you've got your ammo, and you can change that. You can go into the settings, making sure they never show up, or you can just say,
Aha!
"Hey, yeah, click backspace," and that's it. Now there's no HUD, except from the early access at the top. But that's something we were sort of discussing a while back, a whether we want that to hide. It's it's sort of like 50-50. Yeah, it does ruin immersion, but it's also important to pass on the fact that the game is in early access. Like, I know it looks so good, but it is in early access.
Well, that does sound like a great compromise in the terms of like letting people customize their experience. Because I know there's some people who are like, I don't want any UI. I just want to go and just like
Yeah.
immersive and be the simulation. And then there's other people who are like, no, I want like green arrows to show me where I need to go. I want as much UI as possible. So
Yes.
to have that and be able to customize the experience is fantastic. And you know what? Here's a dumb question for me that I've always wondered. On the bottom with your help of the SCP logo, where it has little dots on it, are those lives or what do those represent?
Yes. They are lives, yes.
Ah,
Yeah, so eh, when they were first implemented, they were a little buggy, which is which kind of makes it difficult to tell what they're doing. and in the beginning they used to show up randomly, like if you were in single player and they were there, and then someone would join on you, and that just wasn't taken into account. Uh, so yeah, just minor bugs probably made people confused. But in addition to that, it isn't really specified what the dots are. But we needed a way to show you your lives in the game. Because originally the game wasn't built for having lives. It was built as like a very hardcore tactical game where you get one life. That's it. You go through the whole game one life. Uh, and then obviously it has as like we've extended the game from 20, 30 minutes to potentially 4, 6 hours now. People obviously they would get frustrated if they died, especially if it was a bug, and they died from that, and they were like, "Crap! Now I've got to, yeah, they've got to go all the way through that potentially 4 hour incursion back to wherever they were." So yeah, we added lives to the game, and I think I can't remember how many we started with. I'm not sure if we went straight to 3 or we started with 1, but we sort of settled on that. Uh, yeah, it's always been 3. Yeah, we sort of settled on that as being like the best middle ground. So you, it's still it's still that hardcore game because you can easily be killed, but you have that chance. Uh, and then 173 comes along and immediately takes one from you. But that's how the game is. Yeah,
And
it's 3 lives, but you get it's kind of weird. Like your original life counts as one, but you get once your lives are gone, your final life is your remaining life, if that makes sense.
ah, and can you pick up?
Yeah.
Any chance you'll pick up quarters so you can get more? That's not this kind of
Oh
game.
man, no. We we are forgiving. Like we made it well because it was easy, but we made it so that the player themselves, if you're in a team, you need all teammates to die in order for the game to end. That is an insane a feature. Imagine playing single player and you don't have that, but being in a team, like you can have someone sitting in a corner. Don't do this. It's very unfun. But you can have someone sitting in a corner hiding and just go in yourself to take on the enemy. But yeah, it definitely is a lot easier in team play.
Well, it almost reminds me of.
Uh,
Have you ever played Halo 5? Or no, was it Halo 5 or yeah, it was Halo 5, where there was like a team mechanic. So whenever you'd get down, the level wouldn't restart. You'd have to sit there and wait for the AI guys to revive you.
I didn't. I didn't. I played Halo. Oh, what was it? Was it Reach with all the skulls on? It was one of them with all the skulls. And as soon as one player died, that's it. It would restart you at the last checkpoint. And man, that was hell. I'm pretty sure we completed it with all the skulls on the hardest difficulty, but that took a very long time because you'd basically have to memorize your routes
Mhm.
and where the enemies came from and what not to get, when to peek, stuff like that. So that was a crazy experience. It was,
That sounds brutal. Because I know
yeah,
the higher difficulties and with all the skulls on, the enemies just shred your health. I guess it turned into like a real life experience, or as close to simulation as Halo could ever be.
yeah. And similarly in 5K, we do. It's very realistic in terms of how like most people. Some people have played PvP, but a headshot's pretty much a one shot kill. Like with most most guns, shooting you in the head is pretty much a one shot, and that's the sort of the sort of way we like it, because it's realistic, it's fun, and it can be a little bit aggravating if someone's like hiding in like an odd corner, which if Venomous is playing, he usually hides like in the dark spots, like in the distance there, or like hiding in the corner, a somewhere in the map, and yeah, it can be annoying, especially if they've already set up position. But it's fun when you overcome that. When you've got to the point where they're probably like got you down. They've killed you about 10 times. It's a little bit frustrating, but you've narrowed down where they are because they're camping. You know where they are, and you just like peek slightly, and then just shoots, and then they're gone, and then you're like yes, and then it's your time. You've got to pick a hiding position, because you've got a couple of seconds till they respawn.
So
So yeah, that can be quite fun.
when so in terms of like interface, when like the player gets hit and it flashes red, is that kind of something you design, or is you're more just like menu screens,
Yeah,
doing
eh,
codes, or I'd love to learn more about what
yeah,
exactly the kind of programming you do.
right. So 99.9.99999. Oh, no more points. Uh, Most of the UI is designed by me. It's a I get help here and there when we're like preparing for updates, and some of the stuff needs be done quite fast. Uh, so so for the most part, it's me, but it can also quite recently I've had add help with from Hunter, Zoe, and Albani, who have helped on some UI elements. I can't say all of them because some of them are for future updates, but so like the flashing for the objectives, that was a great addition. To me, it seemed a bit too gamey, a bit too stylized, so I didn't add that feature. But when when it was brought up that they needed to be more obvious, and Hunter was working on something cool for it, I was like, "Damn, that's actually really good." So I gave him a couple of pointers and on how to improve it, and it came to what it is right now. I can't show it because PvP doesn't support objectives, but it looks it looks cool. Like it sort of like shines in and just makes it more obvious that an objective has appeared, because a lot of people, I'm speaking about YouTube videos, but a lot of people who play the game, when they're focused, they don't notice UI elements. So they could be like, I've had people who've been like, "Oh, your health's in the bottom left," and they were just coming to part two, and I'm like, How did you not notice this?" But people are like that. Uh, so yeah, making it obvious that UI elements exist is a very important thing.
Hmm.
Surprisingly,
We have
it
a,
is.
a very pertinent question from Zinthu the Circle on YouTube. I have one question, doubt. Does the UI have layers? The reason I ask is because I have some games that if you look to a bush or certain textures, the UI changes colors or even disappears in the objective.
Yes. Yeah, it's like an onion. It has layers. Uh, yeah, technically, yeah, it uses stacks. It's actually quite new. So originally we used Unreal's built-in system, which is just adding stuff to your screen. And what you do is you just make sure that you're not adding something, or you keep a reference to it. You're not joining me in PvP. You keep a reference to it. I I lost my train of thought, but yeah, you keep a reference to it, and then we'd remove it later on, and that's why we had so many issues with like if I click Shift F1, like your mouse suddenly appearing and then being unable to get back into the game where you have to click to get in, stuff like that. It's because it was very much like a web of development. Right now, we designed it so the new system's built on stacks. So it is layered. Uh, like the hood is the base layer, and then when you open up something like this takes that spot of the base layer, and then when you show this, it reappears. What we would do before is we would hide the hood when you went into something like this, so it didn't overlap, and then, but obviously that doesn't work too well. Uh, so yeah, that it is built on built-in layers pretty much.
Does that make it easier,
Also,
or does that make it like a onion? Onion, or the more layers, the better.
it's more. It's some of it's easier, some of it. Okay, if you were building it from the ground up, you would build it like that because it's so much more efficient, saves you so much time. It's just good. However, if you're converting from an old sort of web design, I say web, just sort of like a piece together design, and then moving it to a system like that, it can be very difficult because nothing will work as intended. Like this, when I first set it up, the all these attachments were they showed on top of the hood. So I had to implement a way to hide other layers, uh, and just stuff like that. So yeah, it's a good thing. It's a really good. I think it's like industry standard to do a layered approach to UI, and then just have like a master which controls what is visible and what has input, focus, and stuff like that.
And so,
Yeah,
I guess, what new elements can you show off? I mean, we saw that document and how the documents are
yes,
processed. What can you show us that's coming to 0.15 that won't ruin anything? What has the Tray stamp of approval that you can show us?
yes, yes. I can't show too much because a lot of it is people. It's going to be shown off eventually, uh, over the next coming period of time, and something saved for the update itself to be secret. But I can show off the journal because I designed it.
Ooh.
And yeah, it's not too much of a looker, which uh, we're currently in the process of planning how we want collectibles in the game. I say that with a pinch of salt. Pinch of salt. Collectibles could be anything. So right now, the way the journal redesign works is you see how I've got all these journal entries. So all of these journal entries are persistent. These will be saved on your computer. So no more repicking up all the individual documents and stuff like that again. You can just they're always here. Oh, and yeah, and we now have like this text only version. Uh, it's mainly to save your eyes because having like this shock you like white, like imagine you're in a dark room, you're playing 5K, most of the game's dark, and then you open up your journal and you get hit with a huge flash of white. It can flashbang you. So I've made like a little text only version, which it works. That's a good part.
Will you be able to
And yeah, you can
toggle?
switch between them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you can switch between them at the top. It's not very. It's not about looks at the moment. It's about functionality. That's been the main drive. But yeah, we still got the interactable documents, which which was when we were designing how we wanted documents. We we were going to go with something like this, where it was only text, and we were like, okay, games do this because it's easy. You know, the overflow is automatically supported via a scroll bar. It's nice and simple. But we we were crazy and we wanted it to look like an actual document. So I was like, okay, sure, great. So we got it set up and it worked. It worked somewhat fine. So we had like English written out as it is. It was like, oh, great, it fits. But then came the uh, the translation stuff, different languages. It's like, oh crap, this document, which now takes less than half a page, now takes almost a full page, or a full page, for example. How do we handle that? You know, uh, so we had to do quite a few things. We had to play about with how text is rendered in Unreal, so that it doesn't update when you scroll. That was pretty easy to solve. We just cache the the text so it doesn't update. And what we do is we cache it at about 160%, 180%, and then we scale it down, the documents, so that you can, so it stays the same size, uh, which can make it a bit difficult to read if you're like moving about like this. I'm sure everyone is having issue reading. But if you keep it still and at the right distance, it looks good. It looks decent.
So is that
Uh,
like it's funny because like when you think about like Unreal Engine, you think like mega textures and super environments and 4D blah 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 shading and all this other
yes.
stuff. You don't think that like how will it process and cache the text? How do we make sure this document is legal is illegible?
Yeah, a lot of the heavy work is done by Unreal. A lot of the universal stuff is done by Unreal because obviously they've had to create their own games, and the easier it is for them to, like, if they create something modular in their engine, which they can use for multiple games, it's a lot easier for them, and obviously easier for the people who use their engine. So a lot of the like base stuff is done. It's more like specialized stuff which you need to take care of, which is like making like the text not update stuff like that. It's very fine. It's like very specific stuff you need. Uh, and yes, we something we have added recently is audio logs. I Yeah, I can't go into too much detail, but at the moment you can click on them and it'll load the audio log.
Ooh.
You can drag. This is just a small uh, a view of it. Eventually, we do want to have a nice audio player like view for it, but for now, it's more about what you've got playing on your journal, and this sort of stuff needs to be visible in the background. So let's say you've picked up an audio log. It's got some lore and story. Right now, there's no lore and story. It's an alarm sound for testing. So yeah, we'll have something like that, and what we can do is when it's playing the the radio or whatever story is playing, whenever that's playing, and you exit the journal, it's still playing in the background. Uh, so you still got that audio stuff, and you can carry on with your game. It's not going to be interrupted by you messing about with the journal itself. And yeah, so that's good. That's It's been a pretty interesting feature to add because as we want to develop more lore focused content, that being like documents, notes, audio logs, stuff like that, we've we've had to create new features, and uh, and obviously that's needed like a new interface to be able to do that. Uh, so yeah, up here we've got categories, pretty simple, but yeah, you can filter between categories, so that's nice and simple. And then we've got these tablets. Right now they're not very interesting. In the future, we'll make them more obvious. Uh, but yet that's an audio log pickup. We've got icons showing on screen just to notify you, hey, the journal exists, which we didn't tell the user about before. I think like one of the only ways to find out about the journal was to see someone else use it, or someone else tell you about it, and then obviously you would find it randomly clicking the button. Was another way of finding it. And then we got, if you were trying to shift J to go into spectator, if you like misclick the shift, then you'd open up you'd be like, oh, a journal exists. So yeah, so now every time you pick up something, it'll just notify you, hey, it's collected and it's stored in the journal.
Oh,
and the journal exists.
So that's cool. So there we go. Here is the big announcement. The announcement. There is a journal. You can collect your lore, and not only that,
this whole time,
this journal will not ruin your gameplay experience. If you want to click J, that is how you get into the journal. But if you just want to go back to shooting and exploring, we also accommodate that as well. Choose as you play. That is the SCP-5K philosophy, giving you the freedom to engage how you like it, whether it's turning the interface on or engaging in the lore. It's a great gameplay decision, so that way if you're enjoying it, you can get into it, or if you're playing with friends, you can ignore it and continue to just have that multiplayer experience. So I hope you enjoyed that look at how the journal functions.
Yeah, it's a very simple feature, but it's one which has been quite important because as we continue to add new collectibles throughout the game, we need a way to store them and to view them. And this update and the next update, I can't say what we're going to include, but it's going to be more focused on storytelling. So, we need this. We need this interface to access it. So yeah, it's a very simple but well-needed feature, and a lot of people didn't know about it. And considering in the last update, I think it was last update, we added part 3, or a couple updates ago. We added part 3 and a requirement to actually get into it, to get past the doors. You needed to know the code, and to find out where the code was, you needed to pick up notes, and that would basically give you clues onto where the code is, like West Wing, stuff like that. And obviously, people are like, oh no, how do I get there? I have to go randomly find it. And even people who looked in their journal, it wasn't obvious that it was a hint. It was telling you a piece of information. So a lot of what we're sort of working on is like, how do we make sure that this can't be misunderstood? How do we make it not as obvious, because we do like to give puzzles, but how do we make it more obvious for people, especially someone who hasn't played the game before?
Well, so that brings up an interesting philosophical question for you, the UI designer, that I'm kind of curious to ask. Also, DCR asks, can we please have a document for SCP-2761? I do not have the say for that, but I will say this. The next time we have the writers in here, once I drag them up here on a stream that doesn't have bad internet connection because there's an earthquake in my neighborhood, then you can pressure them and throw everything at the wind. That is the best venue. If you twist their arms, they might be able to do it, because I imagine a document is a lot easier than a full monster. But keep on pushing it. I love that enthusiasm.
Sure.
So I'm just curious, as a designer, what do you think is the philosophical balance between giving the player too much guidance versus not enough guidance? What is that line between like having it big and flashing versus letting them discover it? Because as I've gotten older, nothing makes me angrier than when I feel like I need to go online and get a guide to figure something out. Like half the reason I stop
Yeah,
playing Zelda games is I get into some stupid puzzle room and it's like it doesn't make any sense. Where am I supposed to shoot the thing? Where am I supposed to go to the thing? I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to look up a guide.
it is a very fine line. It is. It's something you need to walk carefully
Mhm.
because you want people to feel like they've accomplished something and that they haven't been the hand hasn't been held, but you also don't want them waiting for like 2 hours trying to shoot a box because there's no obvious uh, thing to say, hey, shoot this box to open the door, which was an issue. Obviously, the thing is developers, when you're developing, you're like, oh, this will be a cool idea. You implement the idea, and you get other developers to play it, and like, ah, yeah, that's cool. But the thing is they're developers. They sort of know to look for these stuff. So to developers, it's easy to find out what the puzzle is and how to go about solving it because we're already looking for that. But for normal players, and obviously because there's a huge target audience, it can be difficult, especially if like it's not that obvious what they have to do. Uh, to that point, we sort of want to make the game more accessible. Uh, as much as possible so that people can they can play the game without feeling dumb essentially. We don't want them having to go look up stuff. We want everything to feel explorable but and like easily understood but not to the point where you feel like it's too easy. So it's a very fine line you have to walk. It is. uh,
Interesting. One second. I need
yeah.
to get myself a quick drink of water because something went down my throat, and I will be back
Oh
in
no.
2 seconds. But wax
Alrighty.
poetic
I will
upon your
just
favorite game
continue
interfaces.
chatting. Alrighty. So yeah, one of the ways we do it, one of the obvious ways we do it is everyone knows the original code we have or we had 0451. It was pretty much, hey, yeah, introducing people to a new puzzle, a new feature. Hey, here's the code. Pretty obvious, pretty in your face. Introduces you to the idea of a code to open a door. Eh, and that was sort of like the opening to using codes as like the base puzzle. And it's cool. It's a cool feature. We just don't want to use it too much. And so we need more variation on that because we don't want people just being like, ah, yep, we've got through one door. Yep, we got that code, and now we got another door that also needs a code, and it's just people running about finding codes. Uh, so yeah, we do like to separate them out. The quote unquote puzzles, just to make add some variation and don't make it too linear.
I return. Thank you for the patience.
Yeah, it's all good.
So, just out of
I'm sure
curiosity,
everybody's fine.
I know I just always feel bad when I have to like walk away to get a drink real quickly. So, just out of curiosity, as a game player, have been your favorite games that you think had really great UI that you've enjoyed recently, or think have knocked it out of the park?
Oh man, it's so weird because obviously UI is not my main thing. but it's something I've sort of picked up. And after doing a lot of UI development, you get this sixth sense. It's kind of weird, but whenever you see other games, you look at their UI in a new light. You're like, crap. I wonder how they did that. I wonder how they pulled that off. It's weird. It's so odd. But the Modern Warfare, COD Modern Warfare, it was one of the latest ones. It was like very green UI. A lot of people didn't like it, and I looked at it. I was like, damn, it looks good. Like these UI elements, they feel like it did have some issues with there being like too many menus, too much option, and that was a problem. But like for the main stuff you wanted, for the basics, it was easy, easy to sort of know. Oh yeah, there's the play button. Go straight into team deathmatch, a quick play, a loadouts. That was pretty simple. A So yeah, their UI has been very noticeably decent looking, even though obviously they had to. I believe they had a lot of issue with it because I remember people making fun of it. This was before the campaign. The size of the campaign uh, being tossed around. So probably about a year, or two ago, something like that, around that time.
Hmm.
But yeah, that UI, it did look pretty good. It was, I wouldn't say inspirational, but it was like, oh, okay, damn, that is leagues ahead of what we have. So I was like, crap, it was pretty good.
Well, it's always great when you see someone who's kind of like knocking it out of the park. So we've been going for a little bit. I think now would be a fantastic time to open it to questions. What would you like to ask
Sure.
Kyle? Give us some burning questions about UI, game design, anything
Anything,
else. I really would like
well,
to hear.
anything related to the game.
Yes. Although,
Yeah.
be careful. Like, I'm sure. Well, have you been an SCP fan, or you? Because like it seems like the Fray people go into two camps. There's the people who like tactical shooters, and then there's the people who like SCP.
Yeah.
Which one of those would
Right.
you say you fall into?
It's kind of odd because when I first joined the team, I found the team through SCP, and that's how I sort of discovered it, and that was sort of my entry. And I I do enjoy SCP because it's just crazy, right? It's a crazy idea, a crazy online story universe, and that's probably one of the main invitations to the game. But then obviously we've got the tactical side, which I do enjoy. My tactical side has sort of grown as I've spoken to Anders, Samir, Albani, uh, like other developers who enjoy tactical gameplay, and sort of as they've been discussing like the guns. I don't know much about guns. What I know about guns is COD. So when I see guns, I'm like I give them the COD name, or I did. So that was my extent of gun knowledge. Uh, but I've definitely sort of changed to be more 60-40. So 60 SCP, 40 tactical, with obviously horrors somewhere in there, somewhere a part of that. It
So
is.
DCR asks, "What's your favorite SCP?"
Oh, that is a difficult one. That is a difficult one. Right. I. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird, but the only reason it's my favorite is because we were not allowed to add it in pandemic in 5K. I I brought it up like 20 something times. I've been like, "Hey, when are we adding this SCP?" And they were like, "No, it's dead." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yes, we've destroyed it." What? You can't destroy this SCP? And they're like, "Yes, it's already planned." This is a writer's, by the way. This was a conversation with the lead writer. He was like, "Yes, we've killed it." I was like, "But why?" And he was like, "Because it doesn't suit the game. It's what it's what the it's what it's what the Foundation would do immediately." A which in sort of relation is the terminus procedures. They talk about a procedures to destroy and basically destroy the planet. Different ways, different processes of doing evil stuff, like Moonfall. Propagates. Uh, we got placeholder, which is the biggest document ever. When this first popped up, I was like, "No way! This is the document. This is it." And they're like, "Yep, it's self-executing." I was like, "Okay, but where's the content?" And it's like, "It doesn't need content." I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure, great." I was like, "They're gonna feel ripped off," but yeah, we've got a footer there. Like, ooh, okay, cool. That's a document. Unfortunately,
But
although I
what
added
is
in,
the SCP that they killed? They're all asking. What is it?
it has been. I don't know. I don't. They mentioned an SCP here, but I don't think it's the one that they. This it seems like this is the one they utilized, but I'm not sure if they did anything bad about it, or destroyed it or anyway. The thing is although I try my hardest to understand what the writers write, I don't have time. We've got how many writers? We've got 3 or 4 writers, maybe more, maybe less, and they produce documents on documents of dev only a content, and even a wiki content. We don't have enough time to read. If we read this stuff, we wouldn't be able to develop the game. That's how much content they produce. It's crazy, and to understand a everything, we sort of have to get the TDLR, a TLDR of what it is, which is never provided. You have to ask for it. It's like, can I get a quick rundown? And they're like, no, you must read it all to understand what it is about. Uh, but thankfully, the documents they aren't too like to understand them fully. You might need to know the backstory, but you can get an understanding of what they're for, right? So they're somewhat understandable, especially if you go for something like Kessler. This was the first document we added, I think, or the first one I worked on. Uh, and yeah, this was pretty much pretty understandable when I read it. Uh, but yeah, so they are pretty interesting, the documents, but it's a lot of reading, which makes sense as to why there's so many YouTubers who dedicate their time to just explain what SCPs are, what SCP events are, and animation channels where they make a visual way to explain it, which can help. Obviously, we have to settle with the written form because it's the easiest way to get the information into the game. Uh, so yeah, Was that a question? I forgot. Did I?
So well, all right.
I can't remember where we were.
It was just about what's your favorite SCP, but that is.
I didn't answer.
No,
I didn't answer.
you didn't. You went into the placeholder.
Okay.
I just wanted you to give a number and name a cool monster.
Crap, okay. Well, I don't know if it's widely acknowledged what the SCP, because the thing is we don't really talk about the SCPs because we don't know which ones we're going to include in the game, whether that's in documents or as enemies and stuff like that. But I know this enemy is dead. This SCP is dead. But the thing is this is an SCP that is not an enemy. This is a friendly SCP. This is one which you would bring on. Well, you wouldn't bring it on your team, but you would maybe you'd put it in like a tub and carry it with you just in case. Like,
is it the tickle? Is it the tickle monster?
It is SCP-999.
That's the tickle monster, right?
I don't know if it's the tickle mon. It could be. It could be. I just know that it's like an antidepressant SCP. Like it's very much about making sure you have a good time in a very. You feel happy. You feel content.
We are getting shocked.
Sort of stuff.
We are getting shocked reactions from the chat. Sounds like 99. It's definitely 9999. They killed 9999. They already said this. I don't know, man. Yeah. Damn you, Foundation! Oh my God, everyone's like the tickle monster. Never.
I'm sorry. When I was like, yeah, we can add SCP-999 into the game, and they were like, yeah, he's dead. It's dead. I was like, what? What? The thing is SCP-5K exists in it follows the SCP-5000 story to some parts, but then we splinter off in other aspects, which allows us to have full control of what goes on in our story, in our universe. So we aren't directly required to follow the quote unquote canon of the 5000 story, although we do follow it very similarly. We do have our own timeline of events, which was posted in Discord, I believe, and that comes with the fact that we've got crazy stuff like this, where SCP-999, has been killed, along with others, I'm sure, of like good SCPs which could resist or basically help other organizations like the GOC, UIU, and additional. Not going to bring up any specifics.
Well, now I have to grill Gabriel and Dr. Placeholder about like what is the GOC gonna? Yeah, well, when is the GOC gonna like use the 999 to help resist the Foundation? It seems like it is not the most useful weapon in the arsenal.
No, it isn't. It isn't. It's more of an item. It's more of an item SCP. It just exists, and it's more. Oh, it's cool. It's interesting. It's not like a super overpowered weapon, which you would kill off. You would get rid of, or hide, or use for your own purposes if it was. So, yeah. But they've done it according to the writers. They've done it. It's happened. We gotta live with it.
Well, all right. So we have a question from Cal and stuff. Are there options in main menus getting any sort of redesign? And I also did get a private DM for questions. All you have to do is either be in the Discord and type in a chat, phrase it as a question. I'm of course, reading it. And you can also submit questions on YouTube in the chat. So that is it. That is all you have to do to add in to ask a question. But yes, back to the question. What menus are being redesigned?
Yes, specifically, I can't I can go into a little bit of detail. So a lot of our menus are built out of functionality, as I described earlier. So a lot of the UI is going to get overhauled eventually. Uh, I want to say by 1.0 because that's like game release. Uh, Whenever that comes by. So the idea is to get it, get the game in a suitable state by then, like a finished state, a releasable state, and a part of that is the UI. So one of the big ones is the main menu and pause menu. Uh, but I don't know if you looked. I don't know if you remember the original. I don't have an image on me right now, but it was horrendous. If we think about functionality over design, that was 100% functional, 99% functional, 1% design, eh, because it was built out of the necessity to just need a pause menu, eh, just a functional pause menu, and like even right now we've got resume options, journal, change team, change loadouts, host game, return to like this is a lot of options. And the thing is that there's probably more. There's probably more coming. Like we got so much stuff in the game, so much UI. Like the report player. Hopefully it still works. This I guess it slightly matches the pause menu, but as we've been developing the game, we've created UI as we've needed to. Uh, oh, it still works. Okay, we're good. So yeah, so as we come across to it, we sort of built it as we've needed to add it. Uh, so what comes with that is every iteration of new UI, we we slowly it slowly gets better. Fingers crossed. I hope it gets better, but it looks more finished. Like you look at the early access thing at the top left. Uh, this used to be like twice the size, three times the size, something like that. It was very in your face. Right now, we've gone very thin lines, a very thin text, quite a grayish color to sort of keep it minimalistic, keep it to do with the game. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of UI overhauls if I can get the time. Uh, yeah, it's kind of a weird one because there's a lot of us which still wear multiple hats, and because obviously we're an indie studio, we we all sort of we do a lot. Uh, so primarily, I do the programming, specifically for the UI and in other gameplay areas. But what that means is 50%, 60% of my time is dedicated to programming tasks, and then the rest of my time is dedicated to importing or creating the new UI for the game. So that leaves about a 1% of my time to design the UI. So yeah, it's just a matter of as as programming becomes less important. I say less important. As we get a lot of systems in the game, there becomes less tasks for programming. That means that I can I can begin to sort of move over to bug fixing as well as UI focused, in addition to some of the programming tasks. But it just means that eventually it will happen. But at the moment, functionality over design is the thing we're doing, the place we're at.
Ah. Uh, so we have a question from Moto on YouTube. Can you choose what animation you want? And Frex the Wolf says only Hello from the UK. Love the game so far. I love this game. I'm nearly addicted. Glad to hear it, Moto and Frex.
Nice.
But can you choose what animations you want? And I guess that also begs a question. Have you done UI work for the upcoming customization that's coming to update 0.15?
Oh, yes. I yeah, the first one, animations. If you're talking about in-game animations, we do have, obviously, the wave was it was basically a test implementation to see if we could easily add wave into the game. I'll talk about UI animation just in case that's what you're talking about as well. But the the waving stuff is, we sort of figured out we how we do it, and to get it to blend right with, let's say you're reloading and then suddenly you wave, you can't wave until you finished it, and then you can spam to get like look like you're patting someone's head. I've seen, but yeah, stuff like that. Eventually, we do want to add more animations so the game feels a lot more alive, a lot more lively. I don't ask me what animations. We'll probably add some like tactical animations where you like, hand signals like move forward, move left, stuff like that. But don't. That's like what we could potentially add. That's not what we will add. But that's what we want to add. Eh, so stuff like that. The Because the way we set up a lot of stuff is modular. So adding new stuff like weapons, for example, the way we designed the system, Albani designed the system specifically. He designed it so you could create new weapons with ease, and then you plug and play the anime in the engine. You plug and play the animations you've set up. So you get the animations from the animator, import them into the engine. You modify them to get them to work with our character. So you set up timing and specific stuff, and then you just plug and play, and it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool system we got set up. Uh, and yeah, in terms of like UI animation, it's pretty simple. I try to add a little bit of animation wherever, just fade in, fade out, stuff like that. Scale up, scale down, just to make it more interesting. And yeah, we got new audio for stuff.
And we also, I don't know if you could show this off. So if you can't, it's completely fine.
We got a bunch of new audio,
Ooh,
mention on stuff.
well, that's cool. Is it possible to show off the UI for the customization, or is that like something that you got the explicit no go for?
Wait, what? Could you repeat that?
The UI for the customization, or is that not something you could show off?
Ah, the UI for the customization. It's not. It's not a. I can show it off, and it wouldn't be a problem, but it's not in a good state. A you pretty much will only see the interface and stuff like that. I can show it off because I'm pretty sure everybody here just wants to see what's it like during development. Yeah, I can show it off.
Yeah,
What
if you
is
could
this
show it off.
26 minute? Oh, it's 26 seconds. It's just the alarm. One of the alarms.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
it's not a 26-minute but who knows? In
No.
the final game, there might be a 20. You don't want a 26-minute audio log?
Yeah. So we got this cool little developer setting, which allows us to skip the pre-game UI. So all like the loadout stuff, all the team selects, just so we can hop in and out and test the game quick. But I just switched that off. So now I can select blue team, which I finally fixed. For a while it was called like blue test. I think I named it to a while back. for fun, and I just left it in. So yeah. Oh, what's this? Customization. It
Oh,
is here. So yeah, the current customization in the game. Yeah, I didn't get a message saying I'm just like giving it a couple of seconds just in case like Bishop is gonna send me a message being like, no, don't do it. No, it's fine to show off. So right now we can't modify gun customization. That's not on the plate at the moment, but that's something we want because we have functionality for it. We've got skins, but the thing is it's not added to every weapon. I think we got a tan version of a lot of the weapons, and we got a regular version of the weapons, but it's not that sort of stuff is not set up yet to function. So yeah, what we have got at the moment is bear with the UI because believe it or not, it's still existent. The text is pretty much temporary. So yeah, we can change the body type of the player. Uh, so that the width of the arms, shoulders, a chest, stuff like that. So yeah, we got that. You can then modify the skin tone. It's a bit difficult here because I'm in a dark environment. But yeah, different versions of the skin. So we got heavy short sleeve, which is basically like heavier, a heavier model of the crap. I don't know who I am. Am I the UIU? I think I'm the UIU.
I think you're the
I'm one of them.
UIU.
Yeah. We've got two teams, two factions in PvP who you can play as. So yeah, and then we've got the light short sleeve, so it's very light armor focused, and then we've got the normal, which is there's no rotating, not yet. But so if we go with the light, you can just about see the skin. I wish I sort of planned for this, but if I change the skin tone, oh no, don't break, don't break, no. Okay, it works. It worked, but it's recently been broken. Interesting. Okay, the skin tone does work. I can show you. I'll show you in game. Can I show you in game? I think I can show you in game. But yeah, you can basically select a two what are they called?
Patches.
Cosmetics at the moment.
Ooh.
Yeah, patches. That's it. So you got one for your chest. At the moment, we've got like a chest patch, which sits on your chest, and then a right shoulder patch. I wish I could show you more. It's still in development. Uh, but yeah, right now we've got three chest patches, which is Earth, Pride, and UIU. These are all like the testing ones set up, and then yeah, we got the more finalized, nice looking circular patch, uh, which is on the shoulder. I will try and get in game. I'm gonna see if I load the light sleeves and
We do have a question that I think is very very
yeah, go ahead.
relevant. When will we actually be able to select a tool in the UI?
Ah, yes. When we add tools, that is yeah. When we first designed the inventory, it was in our designs we were like, oh yeah, we want primaries, secondaries, you know a very clear distinction between them, and then we also want a throwable, some type of usable item, that being grenade, chem lights, stuff like that. A and yeah, chem light data, nice. So yeah, we do have these consumable items, but we also plan to have tools in the game. But the thing is we we never uh, we never we never sort of continue. Like, we do still plan to have tools in the game, and it's in discussions at the moment on what tools we're adding first and how they'll influence gameplay. Because when you add new stuff, it's important. Like, is it accessible in PvP? And does it give an advanced stuff? Like, it's weird, but you have to look at it now that we've got multiple game modes. We're like, is it usable in multiple game modes? Do we have support to block it from certain game modes if it's game breaking? I doubt it would be, but like a camera, for example. I'm not saying that we're adding this, but if you could have a camera stick, camera wand, that could be very overpowered in PvP because you could sit in your camping spot and be totally invisible and just, yeah, they sit there forever. So tools will come eventually, but for now, it's just an empty slot. It's just like that because when we add tools, we don't want to do too much work in redesigning stuff, replacing stuff. We just want it be nice and simple. Where you just click on tools, it gets populated with the tools which are accessible. So yeah, so eventually we plan to.
We also have a question from Ethax 11. What is with the pickle on the toilet in the bathroom in one of the levels? That's a good question.
Yes.
This is not the definitive answer, but I'm just going to say it's a Rick and Morty Easter egg. I'm Pickle Rick, something along those lines.
Honestly, because it's an indie game and we have a bunch of developers who work on the project, we all like to add little stuff to the game. Not necessarily we all add stuff like that, but like little Easter eggs about. It was just, I don't know who actually added it and why, but I remember the nuclear reactor had a giant one in. Like, there were so many. The next to the nuclear reactor in the room just before you enter there was a room of smoke, and if you saw behind the smoke, there was a huge pickle in there too. I can't remember who did it. I could check GitHub and look through when we added it and just find out then. But everyone likes to add like little stuff like this. You're not going to be able to see it because, yeah. But like, there's little text in the book. It just says hello there. Just stuff like that,
Oh,
tiny little detail.
so apparently there's a pickle sour and dill SCP-5781. So maybe that's the what it's a reference to, and it's not the cringe Pickle Rick. Although in my head it'll always be Pickle Rick. Look at me,
Yeah.
look at me, Morty.
I think it's just because we had a pickle asset, I believe, and obviously it's sort of evolved into potentially a reference to that. It's how I saw it. I was like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, pickle on the toilet. Okay. Potential Rick and Morty reference, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, there were so many pickles about. I can't remember where the first one actually showed up, but there's a load about even right now, I think.
And we
Yeah, there's quite a
also have a
few.
question from Ethan. Is there a plan to add AI teammates that will fight with you? I think in previous streams they've mentioned adding it to it, but I don't think it's a huge priority. But don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure if that's the sort of what is being planned. But has that been talked about, or because I feel like Trey's answered that before in previous streams.
The answer, yeah, he's probably discussed it. The answer is yes. We'd love to add a team AI because single. Some people, they either they don't want to play with other people or they just don't have other people online at the moment. they they want that support. And as we all know, in games like Payday, where the AI is just overpowered, you can be like, run into the bank. AI pretty much tanks everything for you. A AI is good because it acts like a teammate. It's something we want to add. It's AI. The One of the biggest sort of expensive in terms of development time is AI. One of like the biggest things you have to put so much time into, like getting right, is the AI. Like if you look at the guards right now, they sort of play. They could play a role where you are on their team, and they will sort of play about and not shoot you, obviously, because you're friendly, but obviously they won't support you. They won't act like you're the team leader and stay near you. But even getting the guards into a decent state where they can be an enemy, it's taken so much time. Like we first developed guards so many updates ago, and we've iterated on it so many times. Like now they lean, I believe. Now funnily enough, originally we designed the system where they could shoot fully automatic, but they wouldn't gun you down like a player would. They would they would choose to be more strategic and shoot like one or two bullets off every so often, because then they don't feel too overpowered. Eh, but I suppose this is best left to an AI developer to discuss more. But yeah, AI is something where we'd love to do, we'd love to add, but every enemy we add into the game needs its own UI, its own custom UI, unless it's like a reskin of the zombie. Uh, so stuff like that is just painful, because it's easy to get wrong. And because we've got so many different environments in the game, it's easy for something like that to break and mess up. And you're probably looking at a couple of updates worth of work from a couple of devs to get a decent team AI. And that's if everything goes good. So we do want to add it eventually, but because that is our goal. Our goal is to make the game accessible. And one of those is if you don't have access to other teammates, how do you how does the game more enjoyable and more easy for you? So yeah, it's something we want to add, but probably not in the short term. We're probably looking at a 1.0 updates. A hopefully, hopefully.
So there you go. Player AI is always very difficult to handle. Need I remind you,
Yeah,
playing Halo 2 when you would let the AI try and drive you, and then it would just like always get you killed. Oh my god, it's so cool! The AI could drive you. I could shoot the warhog. Oh, that was a terrible idea. I never should have done that. That was absolutely awful. But Ethan also says very nicely, or Ethan Thalks. I just want to let him know that the game runs really well on the Steam Deck, and this is one of the best games I have played. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. It is always great to
on the
hear
Steam
that.
Deck.
Apparently,
Interesting.
this kid's got a ball in Steam Deck, and he's playing 5K on it, which is great to hear that it runs well on a Steam Deck. So that is always
Yeah,
fantastic to know.
I think there was like some guides on Steam where they tell you what settings to use best for Steam Deck. Stuff like upscalers, to get the best performance. It's it's something we want to work on, getting it working on the Steam Deck, because quite a few people use it. Surprisingly, it was surprising to me anyway. So it's something we want to do, but our main focus is purely PC at the minimum slash recommended settings and hardware.
Well, the beauty about Steam Deck is that it's one unified hardware versus a billion different types of hardware. I know that the QA guys and gals are
Yeah,
working really hard behind the scenes to break this game, as I'm sure you've seen during one of our QA streams. One of the things that makes PC game development so difficult is the fact that nobody has the same hardware. There's 5 bajillion graphic cards. That's what I think personally makes game development kind of a nightmare, or at least on the PC gaming.
yeah. Like imagine developing for console. It must feel good to develop for one specific set hardware requirements, even though it may require more optimization, but you wouldn't have the issues with drivers or just so much hardware incompatibility. And the thing is it creates a lot of issues, and we're like yeah, we're trying to help as many people as possible, and when we receive uh, crash logs and stuff like that and bugs from QA, we we ideally focus on the one that is affecting the game the most. So I'm sure QA has already said this, but the more prioritized bugs are just the ones we focus on, and yeah, just getting those sorted for as many people as possible is always the primary focus.
We do have another question from Cal and Stuff. Is the team selection and the weapon select screen going to be used at some point?
Team select and weapon select. It is usable. These buttons
Um,
and weapon selection,
not
team
selection.
selection,
Section, not selection.
section. Oh, yes, yes. In the on the right here. Let me go to the team. So this team, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, I think that's
Yeah.
the
Right. So originally, when we when we implemented the loadout UI, it was planned to have your your current teammates visible on the right. You can see their weapons. You can see the name, stuff like that. The skins, wherever it gets added. It was a matter of, hey, the update is coming out, and this is real speak. The update was coming out in a short period of time. I went once the loadout UI was done and working correctly. That it was just a feature that was not added. It was just a feature that was ideally wanted because there was a place for it, but and obviously it's always been a weird spot having this here, but it sort of plays its role when you hover to show information. But yeah, it's always been one of those things where I'd like to get back to it. It probably won't take too long, but it's finding a a task or a position, or yeah, a task which is less priority, which it can take its place. Because I think, yeah, I'm not spoiling anything, but for the next couple of updates, we sort of have most our tasks planned, and a part of that is, when do you fit in older stuff like this? Eh, like it's not a necessity. It's a it's a good feature to have, because then you can see, hey, my teammate Bob is uh rocking an AK. And like, oh no, he's picked the gotta think of a, yeah, an M19X. What is he doing? That mad lad, you know, stuff like that, where you can actually see what people, because it's very much like other games, like Payday, for example. Bringing up Payday a lot, where you can actually see what other people are bringing in. Especially, it makes more sense if you aren't on voice chat and you're going into a game. Obviously, it doesn't matter for the campaign, but for for games like for a game mode like PvP, Hunt, and future game modes where you can select your loadout, it will be important to see, hey, who's rocking this? Who's rocking the grenades? Because whoever has the grenades won't be quote unquote the medic, stuff like that. If we do add consumable medical items, unless in worlds medical items, then it would make more sense to know who has what. Uh, so yeah, we would uh, definitely like it to be in
What
soon, but it's just fitting it in.
we do have a question from CalArt. You should probably make it so you can use text chat in the menu. So
Yes,
question.
yes.
How difficult would that be to add? Like, how feasible is that? Because I would love to hear,
Yes.
like, from your perspective, what does that look like to build like something that seems like so simple from the ground up? Because I imagine it's not simple.
Surprisingly, it's just a matter of input. It's not too difficult. When last updates, I say last updates, in 0.14, it was a feature, but it introduced a bug to the UI, to the game, which couldn't be fixed in in enough time. So I had to revert those changes. Uh, but the the text chat is its own widget, so it's pretty reasonable to move about. So that you can type here. One thing we do have is it's local to the widgets, the history of the text. We don't store that on the player. It's just in the widgets right now. Is something which we'll hopefully add when we do add text to other areas. Like if I type /endgame, we do have a text chat in the endgame. It doesn't always work. Oh, let me dismiss that and hopefully get in before. So if I click enter here on the, if you it's weird. Like the inputs. So right now, managing what has input priority is what's playing about with getting the text chat to work. So here we have like a post game widget, and in that post game widget we have another widget, and that's called stats. And then we also have a map select widget. But obviously, what we want is we want a text chat, which would go in the post game, which would be always accessible. But the moment we select these sub menus, they have focus, they have priority, and making it so that they sort of say, "Hey, I haven't used up this input," uh, and they pass it back to the previous widget, which would be the post game UI widget, to actually access this and use it. Definitely didn't break there, but stuff like that. It's slightly difficult, and getting it so that there's no issues. Like right now, we can obviously see when you press enter, you can't see anything because it wasn't designed for working in a menu. It was designed to be working in the hood. So yeah, eventually it will be added because it's an important thing. Even if you have voice chats, text chats is is a it's an important thing to have. Uh, just a way to communicate with other players, especially without that team where you can like see your teammates' items. Text chat is great because you can just say, "Hey, yeah, I'm rocking grenades" or something like that. So it's something that will be added, but yeah, again, it's if if we can add it without issue is pretty much a the goal. So yeah, it will come, but eventually, hopefully that was enough.
Another
Answered the
question.
question.
I found the chat. Yay! It was also kind of curious if there will ever be a mod support like Operation Harsh Doorstep. I think yes.
Yes.
The short answer is that 5K will eventually get Steam Workshop support. It's just kind of like one of those things where you got to build the sandcastle before you can build the Malibu Barbie stream house on the side. That's a terrible analogy that I just came up right now, but it's definitely something that they want to do. Although, well, just out of curiosity, hypothetically, all right, let's say Kyle, mod support's here. How'd you build a user interface for it?
Apologies. I definitely regret opening the main menu because it
No.
might load for a while. But the thing is, hopefully my voice doesn't start sounding robotic. But it's not too. Oh, it probably will with compiling shaders. Just let me know if I begin to sound robotic, and
You're still sounding all right.
I'll hopefully. I'm still sounding good. Okay. So one of the thing is there's only a few of us with experience in developing mods, and obviously, well, I say developing mods. There's only some of us with experience in creating mods or working with mods for games. So we don't have that much experience with how to implement mod support. It's something we've looked into. Like one of the things we found, yeah, like it does have. There are things like which come with UE4 where you can basically export a a version of UE4 or the engine where you can modify it. Something which was done with games like Ark Survival Evolved, where you could download their UE4, their stripped version of the editor, and you could then go in and create your own mods and upload them to Steam Workshop. And that's a way of doing it. Uh, like that's one of the options which is accessible. Uh, it's just it's just how we want to go about it. Whether we want to go that route where we set up a a stripped version of the editor specifically designed for creating mods. It's a much easier way to create. Well, it's much easier for the user, for the person creating the mods, because they've got like a unified interface. Like if they've worked on other Unreal games, they could use the same interface they have to create mods for 5K.
Well,
But
apparently.
it's yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry to stop me if I was interrupting, but Gooms said to correct me in my ignorance. You wouldn't make a UI for modding. An SDK is just Unreal 4 with game files on top, and certain things are exposed and not exposed. So there you go. That sounds like a technical explanation. Does that sound about right?
For some part, yeah, we do we do add support for mods. Like recently, we added this menu here. It doesn't. It works for us. A So this basically loads in custom maps, and what it does is it gathers. It doesn't work right now, unfortunately, because I think it shows up new maps, but it doesn't allow you to load them because because we have very specific uh, files which are needed to actually load maps. Oh, it doesn't show maps. Oh, well, that's not good. But like obviously because we don't have experience with it, we're sort of we've had help from a couple of modders who have you know created or dabbled with mods or modding, and they sort of said, "Hey, yeah, this needs to be accessible," or what tools they have to modify and what they need from us. Uh, so, for one example, which makes it difficult to mod, is we have this a custom world settings, which I imagine is extremely difficult to replicate. But the way we design our maps is partially through this. Uh, like we specify specific. Oh, we've got checkpoints here. So yeah, so specific stuff like this, it's where you need the world settings. Am I still? Am I still good? I'm not robots.
No, you're not a robot. You're still talking perfectly fine.
Okay, good. Alrighty. Yeah. So here we set up the teams. So for PvP to work, teams must be set up for. Actually, I'm not sure if it's needed for the campaign. I'm unsure about that. The thing is when we originally developed the game, we wanted to support mods, but it wasn't a we're going to develop the game with mods in mind. We sort of developed how we knew we how to develop, and unfortunately, some of the way we've done that is in a negative approach to modding because it creates like a barrier. For example, in order to load custom maps, we we had in the past a requirement for those maps to use pandemic world settings, which is a custom world setting. We had a cast, which would basically just not load the game if the cast failed. Because the thing is in our mind, you know, there is no world without our world settings. They come tied together. There's no opportunity for a world to be present without it. So obviously that was one of the issues which we discovered recently. Uh, so yeah, we're doing some stuff towards modding, but we're not there yet. There's still a huge way to go, and when we do, we do want to add support for stuff like Steam Workshop. Uh, so similar to Ready or Not, where there's an interface and you can then use that interface to browse mods. We want to add features like that because it's easier for users to find mods, install them, manage them, stuff like that. It's just when it's just getting the mods to work and getting it easy enough, and then will come the interface stuff. So thankfully, the UI needed for that is still long in the future. Uh, Before then, we need to actually get modding to work, which which is a goal. It's something we want to do for sure.
Gooms is getting very technical. The main thing to understand about the
Yeah.
UE4 modding is that they are considered monolithic in the sense that you don't actually alter the base game files. You have to duplicate them and make what is effectively an overhaul of the game. Any sort of granular control of piecemeal that will require custom work of the game client's front for the game actually received and interprets those mods. Most games in Unreal Engine with extensive modding have a lot of work done to make them function to the point where you can run multiple at once and stuff. Very, very detailed overview.
Actually, talking about this, when I designed the journal, I designed it with modding in mind.
Oh,
The thing is we don't fully know how someone would add content to the game. In my mind, they can access. Let's go find a journal entry, for example, at Kessler. In my mind, they can access a data asset. That's what I'm assuming. They'll have some sort of code or way of accessing a data asset or creating one. A And what then they could do is duplicate this Kessler and change the contents. So these would be paths. A so the in the editor these are drop down, but these would be converted to a path, I believe. A So yeah, so it'd be a matter of just changing this up. So the journal itself, ideally, is moddable, or the contents. And what I've done is I made it so all mod content is, well, it's kind of weird. So the journal split into two categories. We've got persistent data, which is stored on the local clients, and on all clients. That is all the documents in the game, which is, it's data which is pre-placed. And then we got custom data. So this is data which is generated at runtime. This is generated on the server. So what we do here is when the server says, "Hey, yeah," or the client says, "Hey, I've picked up this item," the server goes, "Did you really?" And then the server, once it's agreed that you've picked up the item, it'll assess that item, package it up, send it to you, because it's a custom item. It contains custom data like a key code, something like that. It could be anything, whatever data format we create can be sent from server to client. And as long as the client can interpret that, it should work. So that theoretically allows people to create it, like journal entries of their own. So they could go like, "Hey, I want to add my own notes. I want to add my own documents, stuff like that." They could theoretically create these assets and create a mod which everyone has, or if they do get into it, you can only this as long as only the server has it, you could then send that data. You can't create custom data files without the client having that mod, but as long as you use something like a journal data terminus procedure, you could send a custom one of these, a custom entry, and you could send that to any client who's in your game, and only the server would need that mod to actually create that journal entry, which is pretty cool, as far as I understand it, because that is how I've designed the system to work. So yeah, it is somewhat modifiable. I need to do more. It's a mix of do more research and talk to people who know more about modding to see if that's actually feasible and what things will get in their way.
So,
Eh, so yeah, it's quite a lot to do to get mod support working.
here's a wild thought experiment. Would it be possible to create a mod for that journal where it just plays like randomly assorted YouTube videos of like SCP lore videos explaining all the various SCPs and creatures?
No, that's not possible.
I
Nah.
could speak to that
Oh,
if you want info on
technically
that.
yes.
Here's how will always frame it to people. Can you do that in UE4? The answer is yes. So
Yeah,
therefore, technically, is it possible to mod this or that?
yeah,
Yes. Without mod tools, though, it depends on how the mod tools are created and like what is exposed and what is not exposed. There's a reason that, like, for example, in Insurgency Sandstorm, like the ISMC guys, Aiden and all those, that you can ask them when they were trying to modify like audio files and stuff like that. It was really hard to do because I think they were using WYs, and like per the license of WYs, they can't expose that in the mod tools. So people can't actually touch it. It effectively becomes like a read-only type file, or you just straight up can't even see it. So the stuff you're talking about, you could definitely do that, but you'd have to like make copies of what you were just showing off, and those would have to like exist in like a packaged mod folder that the game needs to have some sort of infrastructure backend to be able to receive that mod file and know how to like distribute it to the client. The client server side stuff would probably is already handled just based on the way that like the server networking works and how like you guys already have that stuff being like somewhat handled from like a networking standpoint and stuff like that, right? So it's complicated. It gets really complicated, especially with the way Unreal Engine works. A lot of people don't really understand that, like, if you have a game with like mod support in Unreal Engine, there's a lot of work against the engine to like make things work, because it like I mentioned, you make a mod folder. You can't just make like 20 mod folders and combine 20 mods. It doesn't really work like that. Like, it only wants to look at the one mod. So you would need to have a way for it to like understand how to grab things out of 20 different mod folders and put them all together, and all of that is like custom work that like Alberni would probably have to do, for example.
So it is not easy.
It'll be a lot of work.
And DCR also asks, question, will we be able to make full mission mods? Potentially.
That is the hope one day, but we're
Depends on
far
the
from that
mods.
at the moment.
I mean, I would love nothing
Yeah.
more than to see, like, SCP-173 be replaced by, like, Shrek T-posing models. I think that would be hilarious.
That you could probably do right now,
Yeah, you can do that right now. You can
because you're just model
swap it.
swapping and it all is referring to the same thing, right? So you like, that's why right now when you go on Nexus, that's like what you see is like model swaps, material and texture swaps, things like that, because that's like, without mod tools, that's kind of like all you can really do.
Yeah, one of the funnier mods was the Among Us, when someone added that to the game, and they made I don't know who added the mod, if it was a mod, but someone created a YouTube video of sneaking through the vents, and then just Among Us, and that in line with the model of it was just it was funny.
I need to dig that up. I've not seen that. That does sound really funny. What about unique AI? Gooms, this sounds like your expertise. Can you? I assume you could do your own unique AI if you want to.
I mean, again, it's going to come down to like what is exposed in an SDK. Like, you could give people full access to like behavior trees, which is like a default tool that comes with Unreal Engine, and you could technically give them a way to do that, like, for sure. You wouldn't be able to give them, probably, you could give them custom AI, but it would probably have to be only access to like the blueprints and visual scripting and certain exposed values and things like that. Because Epic is like pretty rigid about like how you distribute the tools too. Like, you have to get them through EGS, and they like, you can't like open source it and stuff. They don't allow.
So there are some limitations on what you'd be able to do in this mod superstar. Although one thing I was kind of curious to ask you about, Kyle, is what was the inspiration for the opening menu? Because I do think the opening menu of 5K is really, really cool looking.
Yeah, originally we had it set in the server room. I say originally, but some iterations in, we had it set in the server room, and we had it where the character the lights would go off, and the character would switch to a zombie, and then when the lights came back on, he'd switch back, and it was slightly noticeable. So yeah, it's sort of developed over time. In terms of UI, we've always kept it similar, the same design, like left focused menu with content on the right. But in terms of actual the backgrounds, that was the recent one was developed by Venny. And he did a great job of getting a lot of the enemies in. And yeah, he basically went into sequencer, and for about, I think it was about a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month, he was basically setting up different rooms and showing off different animations and aspects of enemies and all the cool new features we were adding in for that update. It was great work and some really nice camera sequences. And then I think he talked about having which is implemented right now, having a video play over the 3D scene in sort of like the light spots or the shadows. And I think he got inspiration from I can't remember what games. There were some newer games at the time, and he was like, "Oh, that's a cool effect. I'd love to, implement something like that." And I think he discussed it with Albani, and they were able to find a way to implement it without too much artifacting. So yeah, it's a really good design, and works really well for the horror aspect of the game.
It's definitely very atmospheric.
Yeah, for sure.
We do have a Russian comment from YouTube. I'm going to use my translator for biker. Let's see. He says, "Greetings. Will there be any global optimization of the game?" I don't know what you mean, global optimization.
Global optimization. In terms of just optimization, yeah, in terms of just optimization as a whole, if that's what you're talking about, yeah, we're always optimizing. Like quite recently, it's I think I can show you this. If I type in pandemic character and then click on blueprints, I spelled it wrong. But yeah, recently we stripped out the pandemic character textures because when we were referencing the character, every time you reference the character, you reference everything a part of it. So it's like this huge tree of this is referencing that, that's referencing this. So a small thing would reference another small thing, and it'd keep going, and you'd have to end up loading huge amounts of content in order to do what you need to do to cast to that character. So we're doing a lot of optimization in the background. I'm sure we'll put some information about that in the updates log, in the dev log. We'll discuss about some of the things we're doing. And yeah, we're always working on like lighting. Don't look at the PvP map because this is one map. We can get away with it being slightly less optimized. Like, look at all the lights. It is a lot. It is a lot more streamlined, but we got like 3 lights in this room. We got like 9 in the main room, at least, and then 3 main lights here. Early on in the game, we mostly used those lights because they were the only assets we had, like light assets. But what we do now is we do a lot of mixing of different lights. We play about with the settings a lot more. We make them more optimized. At certain distances we call them like that stuff's built in. But what we do is we push it as much as we can to say, hey, how far from this light like will I see it? It's pretty much gone as soon as I get more than 20 meters away. It's gone 30 meters away. So how much of that can we do? So yeah, we're always optimizing stuff. And if you talk about that with Albani, you will be talking for days about optimize. He could talk about optimization forever. He probably wouldn't want to, but he would. Just about like the little things you can do to just save on stuff like LODs, culling, using soft references instead of hard coded references, stuff like that. They really bring down the amount of stuff you need to load into RAM, which is amazing. Like if you take the game from where it used to be, I'm talking like obviously post squad, because yeah, it was bad, but it wasn't the worst optimized we've had it. It was sometime after squad when we added all the maps into one. This was where we had every single map in one map. So if we go to the world's outliner, so in here, if we go to levels, so in here you can, so the map you're in is the map, is the persistent level. And in this, you can have multiple maps. What we did originally is Area 12 was just one big map. And so it all wasn't loaded in because we used level streaming to make it optimized. But the thing is everything was loaded in. Everything was visible. And imagine that on a as being a host or on a server, everything was loaded in. It was crazy. Like the host would have to have. Remember when you fell through the maps? This was a big issue up until pretty recently. People would fall through the maps if they got too far away from the host, and this is because what we were doing is on the host side, we were like, man, we need to optimize it. We need to have it optimized for the host, so the collision just wouldn't exist on the server. So people would fall from the map. Whereas now we've found a way to make it work and more optimized now, and it's so much better. Like people playing on the Steam Deck, for example, and saying it's decent. That's to us, that's like amazing because it was nothing like this a like a year or two ago when we sort of released into early access. It was nothing like this. It's slowly gotten better over time. And yes, there are some maps which are heavy, but these are the specifics, like the odd ones out, like the old servers. A that was just a lot of that was stuff we didn't anticipate, like glass, like just if you have too much glass overlapping and then lights, that's a huge a hog of resources. So we were like, how do we optimize this? And that's what we've been doing. It's what we always work on. Every update, there's small amounts of optimization.
So I
So
do
you'll
have
slowly see your FPS increase.
I do have a little bit of a clarification from our Russian gentleman, Mr. Biker. He says
Yes.
30 FPS 30 FPS on RTX 3060 on low graphics settings. I really like your game. There is no other good games in the SCP universe, but the optimization problems really weigh on my heart. Thank you for noticing my comment. So I guess is the RTX 3060 is that a good graphics card? Is that like a really terrible graphics card? I am not an expert.
It's okay. It's a decent graphics card. A 3060 is like the it's a decent graphics card. Myself, I run a 2070 Super. So compared, they're about. I don't actually know how similar they are, but if I had to choose one of those, I would choose the 2070 Super, just because it's worked good for me, and I assume it's decent. But the thing is a if you're if you're running the game, some of the some of the settings it's kind of unintuitive, but running on low settings doesn't always give you the best FPS. It's kind of weird, but that is true. Sometimes running on medium or high actually yields more FPS. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of like
It's
that.
going to take things from your GPU and put them on your CPU because they think your GPU can't handle it. So you're kind of like fighting yourself in a way and
Yeah,
overpowering. So yeah, you want your GPU to be like max utilized and having as much thrown at it as it needs. So
yeah.
raise the
A lot
settings.
of people they have they're mainly CPU limited
Yeah.
because because they buy this like really good GPU because
3060 is a perfectly fine GPU. You should be able
yeah,
to run the game fine. I'd be curious what his CPU and how much RAM he has, and I would run the game on higher settings.
as we all know, like the CPU is the core of the computer. It's a necessity.
It's
A
also UE4, so it's all like single thread still,
yes,
which is
good.
a huge engine limitation. There's nothing we can do about that. That's an engine limitation.
We've done quite a bit of optimization in our materials and getting a lot of that handled by the GPU, which has brought down that requirement on the CPU. It's just, yeah, Unreal. It's a very old engine in terms of what it's built on. So it's built from UE3 and whatever was before then, UE2 maybe. Like it's come a long way, and unfortunately, some stuff like that sticks with it. Uh, but it happens.
Well,
Uh,
a lot of that architecture was being made for the engine. Everyone was still buying like single core CPUs and stuff like that, you know. So
yeah,
yeah, and like that's why UE5 is like a little more friendly towards multiple cores because now, you know, most people have that, so they build the architecture, the engine, to be able to like multi-thread things and stuff like that. Yeah.
for sure. So one quick sort of like cheat. It's not a cheat, but it's what to do if you want better FPS. So playing about the quality settings is a must. Finding what works for your device can mean switching between medium, high, ultra. I don't like to go low because you don't get much. Low does turn off some stuff, but you don't you don't see that much difference. Like some computers will have that. They'll be like, "Oh my god, huge change." But for most computers, it won't make much difference. What you want to work with is the upscaler. So I have to use upscaler in the editor. Don't ask me why. I don't know. But as of recent, so one of the best things to do is use an upscaler. It will, it does have the chance to diminish your your visuals, but you get to change what quality setting you have. So for DLSS, we've got quality, balance, performance, ultra performance. Where quality, it'll try and show you the best visual experience at the cost of some slight amount of performance of what you could save on like a balanced performance or ultra performance. Like right now, I'm not sure if you can see it. It's very notable for me because I'm on the computer, but right now everything looks slightly low res. Just because that's what it does. It lowers the resolution and upscales it. But we've got a bunch of ones we support. We've got DLSS for NVIDIA cards. We've got NIS. I assume it's only for NVIDIA cards because it's made by NVIDIA, but I'm unsure about that. But I know FSR it's usable on both AMD and NVIDIA. So if you're running it on a Steam Deck, you should be able to access the FSR. I'm unsure what the Steam specs are. But like rocking FSR2 and sticking it on, it starts at quality or balanced. If you don't get the increase you need or you're still dropping frames, bring it up to performance as long as you don't mind the visual, the issue in visuals you'll get. And then in addition to that, we've got frame rate limits. Pretty much a requirement. Like I say to me, pretty much a requirement for myself because if I don't lock this to 30 or 60, my fans are going to be like spinning. They're going to be making so much sound. I'm not going to be able to hear what I'm doing. So I lock it to 60 when I'm playing games, lock it to 30 when I'm developing. Then we got resolution scale. This won't be accessible if you're using upscalers because they override it. But if you're not using upscalers, play about with the resolution scale. If I wouldn't go lower than 40, 39, but if you want to, you can go into the config file and drop that down. Because we do some checks from the config, but we don't force the config checks for stuff like resolution scale, stuff like that. And bringing your field of view down, that helps. Like it's pretty obvious to some people, may not be to everybody, but bringing your FOV down, it just makes culling easier. So it'll just help out. Every little bit helps. Rocking the game in full screen, I think helps. And even then, if you want to rock in windowed, I think you can drop the resolution down. But again, these are more detrimental to your experience and probably not recommended. But yeah, for the most part, you can just play about with it, see what works, check out guides, and yeah, hopefully that'll fix any FPS issues you have.
So I hope all that helpful advice was useful, Biker. If you're still there, this was a great little overview of how to handle potentially a lower end graphics card and make sure the game runs crispy smooth. 90 asks, question, is it currently possible to model swap SCP-173B along with animations? Example, instead of SCP-173 not moving at all while standing still, it'll instead start emoting or some shit. I don't think you can do animations. It sounds like you can do model swaps, but Gooms, you seem to be a savant at Unreal Engine. Is that possible?
What is possible?
Model swapping with animations. So is it possible to?
You could load new animations.
No.
You might be able to like. I don't think you'd be able to do that. You would need to have some kind of like exposed, probably weapon blueprint, so you could set back up things. Like I don't think you could do that without mod tools with all of that stuff exposed.
Aw,
Yeah, meshes are easy because it's swapping it out.
Meshes is yeah.
But like custom animations, you've got to make sure it works with the skeleton. It's
Yeah.
you know
The animations
it's a whole
are
mess.
pretty involved. Yeah.
Biker responds. The wonderful Russian gentleman says, "Thanks for your help. You are the best developers." Well, we're happy to help anyone across the globe.
Did he say what his CPU is?
He has not yet. So, Biker, if you want to like say what your CPU is, you're more than welcome to. While we have the troubleshooting force here. So, are there any?
It's something to note. It's when you're creating a computer. It's just a general computer advice. When you're getting the hardware for a computer, just double check that you're making sure that the GPU matches the CPU, or like they're pretty even in performance, because you don't want to be CPU limited, or it's mostly CPU limited or GPU limited. So just there's websites online where you can just go, hey, type in this CPU, this GPU, how do they compare? Do they work well? That's a good way. Usually the CPU's more expensive.
And these days, the GPU is usually has a lot more overhead than most CPUs do, as well. You tend to have that unevenness these days with like newer hardware, because the GPUs are just kind of like gotten good enough, especially with like. I mean, he's on a 30 series. Like he should be taking advantage of DLSS, and there's quite a bit of performance that he could be saving himself, making sure he's using that stuff. High chance that his GPU is more powerful than his CPU, though, if I had to guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So, just out of curiosity, what kind of programming have you done in addition to your UI and design work? Because it seems like initially you were kind of like a programmer, then you kind of pivoted.
Yes. Yeah, so just just like any programmer, really, it's any task which is needed. Obviously, I pick up all the most of the UI work because I've got the most experience with it. Uh, one of the things I've implemented recently over the past update or two is just this in-game. It's not necessarily for the in-game user, but it's for the developers. So this editor tool here, it's got a level select, a to-do list, sort of like an optimization checker. So level design can go through a map in editor and they can visualize what maps are loaded and basically optimize. So do they need this map visible? So they can go into the editor, run around the map, like fly around the map, see if they ever see that map. If they don't ever see that map, they don't need to load it. And or they don't need it visible. Uh, so stuff like that, just for optimization purposes. And then we've got the journal viewer. I'm not sure if I showed it off. But this is just when working with the journal. It's just easy to test and debug. You can just load a journal, add any journal entries you want, save it to a save game file, stuff like that. So yeah, this is not required stuff like tasks, which is needed. This is more stuff which is done to make development time faster. So we got a quicker time to iterate, debug, and test, and develop. In addition to that, the the PvP map, specifically this PvP map, I it's not necessarily programming, but although even though you might not like it, you may hate it, you may love it. I pretty much developed this map.
Ooh.
I had assistance with Albani on developing the concrete section here, uh, which is it's really made the map more interesting. Let's say, like, if you look through the different iterations of this map, it has had huge changes to it uh, over the time. But yeah, it's crazy how not necessarily how it's improved. We've done some improvements, like we've added the ability for invulnerability in spawns, just because when we developed PvP, we didn't really think about spawn camping. It skipped over our heads. You know, as you're developing, you don't think about this stuff. It's only when you come to test and you're like, crap, people can spawn camp or stuff like that. It's like, why didn't I think about this? Like, you've played so much PvP, but because their games have implemented random spawning or stuff like that, there's no, you don't see that issue. So it didn't pop up, but it became an obvious issue. Sounds like crap. How do I mitigate it? So I was like, okay, I'll separate out the spawns and make it so you have to really enter the spawn to spawn camp, and then make multiple ways out of the spawn. It was the next method. It's been a very iterative based design. Like if we had the level designers come in here, they could probably do a way better job. But for the most part, it's been quite fun.
Getting a lot of.
Whenever we did like
I was just gonna say, like, getting a lot of love for your work. I love this map. This map is a massive W. It's incredibly well designed. Sorry, continue on. I just wanted to give you the affection that was being showered upon you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, this is my personal testing map. So you see all these journal entries and stuff. This is where I sit to just develop a, and every update I have to clear it out so I don't leave something in. which will mess with gameplay. But yeah, and then we got down here. I don't see many people come down here, which makes sense because there's actually no reason unless you want to cross the map from n- north north to south. Maybe I don't know which way is north, but the sort of like the inspiration for this map was like, yeah, let's have. It's very COD. Let's have like trains coming through, and we can make it interactive. So every so often, uh, something will come through. It was put train here, but I want it to be sort of like a mix between a platform or an obstacle, and have it like event based. But yeah, like this is just me playing about. This is no this, although that's why it's called the work in progress PvP map. It's because it's just seeing what works and how we can avoid what doesn't work in the future. And this is the playground for it. Like these crates, they were needed to like block visibility as you approach the center, stuff like that. So everything's like iterative development, and it's been quite a good thing. Like what we do is every so often when we make changes into a development server, and we just play PvP and just gather feedback on what problems, issues, or things people enjoyed. Uh, and yeah, there's
I
no you can never turn off all UI, never. Right, the
lo-
thing
I
what
love
I
this overview of the map. Just out of curiosity, when do you think they'll unleash your talents to build another one to add to the roster?
I don't want to leave it because it's not finished, of course. Uh, but now we've got more level designers. Obviously, it's not an important focus, a PvP, but it's something that we enjoy and we see people enjoy, that we want to work on it, but we don't want it to take up too much of development time. So it'll sort of be it sort of developed alongside things as updates come out. And so yeah, maybe if I get some free time, I will either continue developing this map or work on another map and let the level designers come in here and play about with it, see if they can make some interesting changes.
Uh, Bobcat Power asks, is there an option to turn off all the UI in the game? I think you did show us there is a way to turn off a lot of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So yeah, as Cal said, just press backspace, and that'll disable most UI. But the thing is when people say disable UI, do you really know what that means? Do you know what disable UI means? If you had no UI in a game, you wouldn't be able to play that game. Like, let's imagine there's no UI in this game. How am I going to leave this map? Am I going to Alt F4? How am I going to join this map? Like, do but yeah, it's a funny little side thing. Like, there'd be no pause menu. You could not access the pause menu. You could not change loadouts. You'd have you'd have no text chats. You'd have no UI means no UI. But yeah, a simple backspace will make most UI disappear. Like you can even reload. There'll be no reloading UI, no health UI, no stuff like that. So yeah, backspace will do it, and there should be an input for it. A toggle HUD visibility here. Yeah, just click that. Change the keybind using. But yeah, that'll hide a lot of the UI which is on screen.
We do have a question from the Russian gentleman again, who asks, there is another question about animation. Will it be fixed? There are problems that I have noticed for a long time and are very strange. If you stand point blank towards a door with glass, the weapon in hand will go beyond the 3D model. I guess, is that like a clipping issue?
Hey, what's this specifically?
He said, animation problem. If you stand point blank towards a door with glass, the weapon in hand will go beyond the 3D model.
The weapon in hands will go beyond the 3D model. Okay, interesting.
I don't know if that's.
I think I know what you mean. It's like when you get too close, it might clip through a. I think that's what you mean. Like this, for example. Like, yeah, we do checks from the is the gun at the moment. So when we do like the line check, we do it from the center of the character, and for the most part, it does act appropriately. Like the gun hides, but obviously you get situations where the gun can't hide anymore. There's no. It either clips into you or clips into the door. Do we choose? So it's that. It's deciding whether this is actually exploitable. I think it might be. Definitely. If you aim in, it will be, I think. So yeah, if you clip into the door and you shoot, yeah, you can just shoot straight through. Yeah. So don't do that. But yeah, there's an issue, which we need to fix. It's just one of those bugs. Yeah, stuff like animations, they aren't a huge priority if they're non-game breaking, because yeah, they're annoying and they're visual, and we will get to them eventually. But it's more stuff which is making it unfun for stuff like PvP, stuff like that, or they actually break the game where you can't play or prevent you from progressing. Those are the sort of bugs we sort of focus on, and then once those are sorted, we go to the visuals and the unfun stuff, like animations.
Cal and stuff has a question. Are there going to be voice chat indicators for both first person and third person?
Yes. Yeah, third person, you will see it in the name tag when they're talking. I would love. I'm not. I'd love to get their mouths moving, but I don't think we're ever going to implement that. I wish we could, but considering we wear a gas mask, it'd be pretty useless. But in terms of like UI, it's going to be in the name tag when you view them from third person, and in first person, if you can see their health, there'll be some sort of visual to say, hey, they're chatting, a voice chats specifically, so you know who's talking. But yeah, so there will be indicators whenever we add more voice chat features in, like input control, stuff like that, blocking, muting, stuff like that.
So that is definitely something you can look forward to. Sleep well, Ethan11. Thank you for coming. We have been going for a very generous amount of time. I think like 2.5 hours. How are you feeling? Would you want to continue to go a little longer, or would you like to wrap it up, Kyle?
I am good. I'm surprised I made it this far. When I sort of planned what I had to talk about, I didn't think I was going to make it past about 25 minutes, but here we go. It's been a fun experience so far, and I'm happy to continue.
Bobcat Power. Oh, he will not leave me alone about the movie night. But you will get it, Bob. You will get it. I promise. What movie do you think the movie night when Social gets to it?
Ooh, what kind of movies have you watched so far?
So a lot of genre stuff, a lot of horror stuff. So stuff like Annihilation, Independence
That's a good one.
Day, Pacific Rim, some SCP films. There was no Anti-Memetics Division, Memento. Usually heavily skewed towards fun genre stuff. Cabin in the Woods, The Thing, The Ruins, 30 Days of
Oh,
Night.
I was going to suggest The Thing, but you've already got it. Damn.
Well, who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe one day I'll do a triple feature where I have the original 1950s thing, the 1982 thing, and then the Thing prequel that nobody really likes from 2011, but then it came on Netflix and everyone watched it there.
Yeah, there's some really good SCP videos on YouTube or movies. I guess they would be short movies. I think it was Evan. Is it Evans? Dollhouse
Oh
is
yeah,
pretty good.
we did do Dollhouse and
Uh,
Overlord.
yeah. Oh yeah. Those are good. Like just watching those was like, oh my god, the the precision and uh, sort of universe you've got with SCP is just insane. I think like the one issue anybody will have with working on SCP projects is the licensing issue. That
Yeah,
that's probably blocking 99.9% of creative people just because yeah, there's huge issues with what is your own IP and what's Creative Commons and the gray area which is in between, and no publisher or investor wants to mix with that sort of stuff because it can be a difficult place to sort of work. So yeah, it's great that Evan's been able to fund it through like Kickstarter or Patreon and stuff like that, and other creators.
the Creative Commons is very difficult. So, were there any other final thoughts that you'd like to suggest? Leave these fine people with before you bid them adieu.
Ooh, uh, final thoughts, final things to mention. Uh, there's nothing specific I have, uh, and you've pretty much watched a lot of the movies I'd recommend. Annihilation, if that's the one I'm thinking it is, the one which you don't get an answer in the end. It's like, what? Why do I have more questions now than when I started? Is that like the weird space where they enter a bubble
Yes, and
and
then there's like a silver
it's
man,
craziness?
just insanity, and then she like burns the silver man, and then you're not quite sure if she's infected or what happened to her. Yeah, that's Annihilation.
Yeah,
Also has the wonderful
it's
the screaming bear scene.
yeah, yeah. You're like, oh, okay, it's going to like eat one of them. Nope, it's going to scream. It's like, oh, great. Yeah, that's a good movie. I don't know what one of the I don't know if you've seen it. It's an SCP animation. It's called like The Janitor. I don't know if
I have not.
you've
I'll have to look
shown it
into
yet,
that one.
or
I'm not definitely not shown it.
but yeah, it's very interesting. It's very like, it takes a second to get used to it, get used to the animation, but it's a really good storytelling of it. I don't want to spoil it, but if I find it, I'll message you, and then you can just look at the reviews, look at the comments of it, see if it's anything you want to show,
Oh yeah,
or watch it yourself. And
definitely send it to
yeah,
me. I always love like including SCP short films. What I usually try to do is I'll have like a short film, then I'll have a movie to follow it because you want a full experience. You just don't want just like a 20-minute short film and then it to be over.
yeah, sure thing. Yeah, it is. It's something uh, which would be good to do.
Uh,
But yeah, I don't know what other things I'd recommend for watch.
Oh,
Aliens.
oh God, yeah, gotta do aliens. Not yet. Gotta do aliens. Gotta do aliens. I don't
Gotta
know
do
when.
marathon.
Yeah, yeah. Just all the good ones. Alien to aliens. The bug hunt night. And speaking of
Yeah.
bugs, Mr. Biker says, I also noticed a bug with the HUD. After revival restart, for some reason, it disappears. Is that a bug you've ever seen before?
That is a bug I am actually working on right now. This, at the moment, it's sort of like the bug / development period. And that's one of the bugs I was actually working on today. I've got the, not this one, where you switch weapons. I've got that fixed. So now that won't disappear forever. I'm just working on the health. So it should be in this update. Like 99% sure it should be in this update. Providing I don't disappear magically. So yeah, it'll be fixed for the next update.
All right. So thank you so much for showing off the journal, all your hard work, past, present, and future. Can't wait to have you on again so you could showcase other stuff you're working on that you can't talk about. But each step is one little bit closer to the ultimate SCP experience. So stay tuned. We'll have a road to SCP or update 0.115 announcements to make. But this Sunday, we will have... Yeah, that's another reason why I want to wrap up. But for some reason, my internet's being spotty. Hello, can you hear me? My internet keeps on disconnecting.
Your internet's...
Yeah, that's half the other reason why I'm like looking to like wrap things up is like my internet is betraying me.
Oh no.
So
it's been fun. Got a lot covered.
Oh yeah, well, I always love doing these. So come in this Sunday. We'll be with Corvus. They will be talking about the developments to sound design. Lot of cool designs coming. And upgrades to the SCP sound. So I hope all of you can make it on Sunday. It is Sunday at 2 p.m. middle of the day, and I will get a movie night. Bobcat Power keeps on powering for a movie, so I will make a movie night.
It will happen.
It will happen. So stay tuned. Follow all of our socials, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thankfully, my internet, made it to this point. But with that, I must bid you adieu, and I look forward to seeing you when we do our next event.
I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.
Good night, everyone, and thank you for coming.